Hello, hello. Come on in, those of you who are joining in. All right. So I am Dr. Phillips. I am host of Just Connect, and I am welcoming you in to my Facebook Live show that I go live every Mondays at 5 o'clock p.m. Mountain Standard Time. For those of you, don't forget to turn on your notifications in Facebook to catch me. And then also, if you're watching the replay, or if you are also trying to catch it on YouTube, you can catch it. And this is how you do it. You have to subscribe to my channel, Dr. Natalie Phillips. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and then turn on your notifications. This is going to help you see when I go live. Actually, I also go live on YouTube as well. So I want to make sure that you guys know how to find me. All right. So I have a great topic today, and I'm super excited to talk about it. I want to talk a little bit more about just kind of the art of connecting and communicating through technology and social media. And I have a great story to tell you about, why I want to talk about today. You guys, I think, are going to laugh. So anyway, I want to play on my intro video, get people in here, and then I am going to come back and talk to you about this great topic of connecting and communicating through technology and social media. So enjoy this.
I'm Dr. Natalie Phillips, host of Just Connect. I am an audiologist, a business owner, an entrepreneur, and a connector. This life is about connecting for the right reasons and to the right people. I believe making authentic and true connections lead to growth, change, and impacting the world.
All right. Okay, so come on in, come on in. All right. So here is my story. Well, number one, I am super excited because I booked some tickets to go home to Hawaii. I'm from Hawaii, and I'm actually going to go home for my high school reunion. And, thinking about just how we used to reach out to our friends, and all I had to do, instead of like calling a bunch of people and saying, hey, I'm coming home, or this is when we're going to do it, or when we're going to plan, hopefully we can plan the reunion around this week long of alumni events called Ho'olaulea. And, all I had to do was get on Facebook. Our class, our actually graduating class, has a Facebook group that all I had to do was go in there and say, hey, these are the dates that I booked my flight home. Who wants to have our reunion, I'm going to tell you which reunion it is, the 30th year. Who wants to have our reunion around the week of alumni, week of Ho'olaulea events? And so it was super easy to reach out that way. This is one of the things that I'm super excited about, because we have this technology at our fingertips. Made it super easy to do this, right? Instead of having to call everybody. It made me, think about some of the other things that I've been working on and having conversations about. And this is the whole story behind why I wanted to talk about this with you today, is because, parenting. All right. So I'm just going to kind of deviate a little bit and tell you how I got into this topic, but parenting is the gift that keeps giving, right? So, okay. Parenting. So I had a conversation with my son, who is in high school, and about just having, text messages and phone calls. And apparently he has been, talking with this girl who's a little bit older, and I have no idea who she is. And, when I found out that he was kind of texting back and forth, I said, well, who is this girl? Because I'd like to know who she is and know a little bit about her before you actually, start talking to her or texting her, whatever it is. Like, how did this all happen? And he said, oh, well, mom, she came up to me in school and just introduced herself. And I said, okay. And then what? Like, who gave you her number? And he's like, I don't know. And I said, well, that should be your first question, is how did this person get your number? And as we talked about it, of course, I became the tiger mom, for those of you guys who know me. So you probably are thinking, oh my gosh, your poor son. My husband, on the other hand, was being the comedian, but we balance each other out really well. But we were starting to have these conversations with our son, thinking, okay, it's really important that for people that you might not know, you have to be really careful about giving out your phone number or having or striking up conversations. But then on the other hand, that was my take. On the other hand, my husband's sitting there going, well, then how do they do it nowadays? And I was like, I don't know, because that's not how it was when I was there. And again, talking about my high school reunion earlier, it's been 30 years, right? So we're having this conversation with our son, and it made me think about parenting. First of all, I'm going to go down that road and some of the tips that I gave him, but it made me think about it's the same thing when we reach out to or have business relationships, or even when we decide on having a partner in business. Like that's something huge too. So it was funny that it kind of related, but I wanted to talk about it. So these are some of the things that I told him, and I'm going to hopefully relay it over to the business side of it. But number one is what I just said, that you don't just give out your number to anyone. Okay, so that was one tip I said. And the second tip was to ask where they got your phone number. And that's just more of a thing like, okay, if it's a friend that gives out your phone number and you didn't want it, then you have to clarify that with your friend, set up expectations so that your friend knows that, hey, dude, like, why don't you check with me before you give up my phone number? And it should be the same way if and I was explaining to my son, it should be the same way if somebody comes up and says, hey, can I have so-and-so's number? He's your friend, right? You need to make sure you check with that person first. So that was the second tip I gave him. The third tip, that I gave him was that, do some asking. So just because somebody walks up to you, and props to this girl who had, the guts to walk up to my son and said, hi, I'm so-and-so, nice to meet you. Because I'm sure in the high school level that it's, with confidence and rejection and, just not knowing what people are thinking of you. I mean, props. Okay. I'm giving her props, but do some asking around and finding out who knows that person and a little bit more about them before you just start talking to them. So those were some of the things that we as parents told our son when he started talking to someone that we don't even know. All right. So thinking about business, because this is a business show, this is not a parenting show. So thinking about business, I kind of started to think about, okay, well, in a business transaction, is it kind of the same when you're taking on a client in the same way? I mean, is business really like dating? And so that's what I came up with. And it kind of is. So on those three topics that I taught my son, or that I was telling my son about, I can relate it to business as well. So number one, when I told him that you don't just give your number out to anyone, let's think about technology, the technology that we have out there. So how do we connect? We connect by social media. We connect by LinkedIn, and we get requests to be friended or to be linked, right, to them, to have a connection on LinkedIn. So if we think about that, do you just say, oh, okay, that's a great new connection, and yep, let's be friends, or yep, let's just get connected? Or do you kind of step back and do you kind of do a little bit of recon, is what I say, and kind of step back and look at their social media presence, their digital footprint, do a little bit of investigating. I know that when we do hires in my audiology business, we do go out and do that. And I'm sure a lot of people do that too. If there's different ways that people, have a way or a system or some kind of protocol that before they accept a connection that you do, please post it in the comments. I'm hoping that I'm not just talking at you but for people who are tuning in, say hello and help us all out. If you have certain things that you do when you receive that connection request, share it with us in the comments, by all means. And, so that was one thing, is that before answering on LinkedIn or before answering on Facebook, kind of step back and do a little bit of like, well, who do they know? Okay, we have that many mutual friends together, or what exactly do they do? And do they need to be connected to me this way? There's just different things, right? So that was the same parallel type of tip that I gave to my son. Number two, when I told him, ask them where they got your phone number. It could be the same thing. I mean, obviously, if you're getting a referral, you don't necessarily want to be that harsh and say, okay, where'd you get my number from, right? So, but in a different way, there's a different way to find out maybe how someone was referred to you so that you can thank them, right? You can send them a thank you note, send them a little text, a little email, a message saying, hey, thanks so much for sending your friend over so that I could help them out. So it's a little bit different, right? But still, you always want to ask, how did you get referred to me? The third thing that I told him was that, do some asking around. I guess I talked about this already, about doing some recon and asking around about who knows them. But before an initial interview, or before when you're doing an interview or you're talking to somebody, it's very similar in the fact that you don't necessarily have to look out on social media, but there has to be references. And so maybe if there's testimonials of people that have worked with this person before, or if there is references that you can call, do your due diligence and get that done. And so, those are some of the things that parallel to my story about my son and parenting and how I can relate it to business. But I actually found some really, really good tips. I found an article, and it was an article by Jeff Bullis, and it was reasons why social business is like dating. And he had a lot of different tips. And I just pulled out a few tips that I wanted to share with you that I thought was kind of interesting. The first tip is it takes time to get to know someone to build trust. And so in this article, he spent time talking about the dating aspect and then also the business aspect. But for this purpose, I really want you to focus on the business aspect. So it takes time to get to know someone to build trust. So, this is something that whether you're going into a partnership with somebody, whether you're taking on a client, you don't have to say yes to everybody, but take time to sit down with that person and really understand their needs and what it is that maybe you can help them with or that they can help you with, because it goes both ways. And it might take some time. It's not going to be something where you just might have a phone call and it's like for 10 minutes. That might just be a meet and greet, but it takes some time so that you're able to give up some information or partner or work together, and that takes time to build trust. The second tip is it's not all about scoring. So again, if you're thinking about the end game, if you're thinking about all I want to do is get to this point, that might not be the best way to do it. And so when we talk about it's not all about scoring, think about how you really communicate with somebody and make sure that the focus is not focused on that end game or that end deal, and allow different conversations that you might have to even drift off into ideas for better creativity or maybe intellectual comparisons, or sometimes it can be lighthearted and fun, but whatever you do, make sure that it is genuine and it is not all about scoring or making that deal. Number 3, don't force something and push too hard. So, there's a balance, right? Because in one way, when you first meet somebody, whether it's in a dating relationship or a business relationship, you might want to give them time. Back in the day, right, there was that recommendation that after a first date, I guess for a guy, like you don't call for maybe 2 or 3 days or something like that, right? So there's a balance, because you might lose that, right? Because they might think that the counterpart might think, oh my gosh, they're not interested, but it might also give them some time to ponder about this time that they spent with you. And it might just muster up that curiosity that they're thinking, oh my gosh, I want another meeting with this person. And so, don't push too hard and don't force something. But at the same time, there's this balance, because you want to spark that curiosity, but you don't want to let your leads feel like they're neglected or forgotten. So you can't stay away too long either. So you want to give enough information so that, and frequently, so that you stay top of mind with people without repeating, okay, so how's about that deal? Okay. So there's a fine balance. You don't want to force something or push too hard, but at the same time, you don't want to be so lackadaisical and so aloof that you lose I don't want to say the deal, because it's not the deal, but you lose that connection, right, with that person. All right. Number 4, first impressions can be deceiving. So a lot of times in marketing too, we like things to catch your eye, right? And we like to put out ads or things that is like the shiny new object, or something that's really flashy, or there's an additional discount if you do this right now. Well, first impressions can be deceiving. You want to make sure that you are creating something and creating that connection to be the best and the most sustainable deal that you can get. So try to choose some smart and reliable partners, and try to choose some smart and reliable or smart different types of marketing, I guess, pieces, so that, it's not just all flash and, but you're really trying to garner that relationship and that connection. So that way you might have somebody down the line. Maybe it's not a connection right away that they need you, but they'll remember for the next time. Which brings me to my next point. Okay, so sometimes you might just have different needs for different times. So this is kind of neat, because, there are transactions where you just need a short-term commitment, and you just need somebody to just do a real quick transactional type of business for you. But there are also ones that you might have to pour in more time and energy and more commitment. And, whether it's a short term kind of commitment or business transaction, or whether it's a long term, you might not necessarily know at the time that you're making that connection. So the better that you can be more genuine about making that connection, whether or not it is a time that needs to be done right now, or a transaction or a business relationship that has to be, right now, or in the long run, it's nice because if you make the right connection, it'll come back later on, and people might need to refer somebody to you, versus use you right now, but knowing that how genuine you are, they might come back later. All right. Number 6, don't self-promote too much. So this one's a little tricky because you do want to have that confidence, and you do want to be able to sell your product and your service, but at the same time, the way you communicate is important. So with communicating and, trying to promote what you're doing, there's a fine line and a balance where you want to still communicate your knowledge and expertise, but you don't want to promote your service and products too much. So there's a way that, if you're genuine, if you're really trying to listen and see if what you have is going to be able to help somebody else out, when you talk to them after you've listened to what their needs are, that type of talk is going to come out a lot more confident about how you can help them versus, okay, but as soon as you're done, like, I want to list all the stuff that I do, versus, well, this is a list of stuff I do, but you know what? I think this can help you or that can help you, And so if you're listening, that's part of the communication process. It's going to help you out, and you won't look like you're self-promoting too much, but you will speak a little bit more from knowledge and expertise. All right. I kind of touched upon this again, but this was another tip that it just might not be the right time. So again, continue to make the connection. You don't know when the time is right, whether someone needs you now or later, but as you continue to make this trust, that expertise, and that referral might come later. So that's all I wanted to say about that one, because I talked about that one earlier. Number 8 is to be clear on your intentions. This is really important, especially when you're going into partnerships too, is that set goals and make decisions based on your core values and beliefs. And when you're clear on these intentions and these goals, and if they don't match up with your core beliefs and your core values, I've talked about that before, it's so much easier to say yes and to say no, or to walk away or to stay in it. Okay. And so when you are considering, especially a partnership, you want to make sure that you lay all these things out very, very clearly. So that way there is no questioning at all whether this is going to align with what you need to do. All right. I think this is the last one that I found in this article, is know when it is time to break it off. Okay. So this one's kind of interesting. I did write an article about disconnecting to connect. And I love this because, I have to say that I had a hard time disconnecting for many reasons, from a lot of different business relationships. Sometimes it was because I had committed to do it, and so I wanted to fulfill the commitment. Sometimes I felt like I was not being a good friend and I was walking away. Whatever it was, there were times that I look back and I can truthfully say I was in that for much too long. I should have walked away a lot faster. And so knowing when it is time to break it off is huge, because it's important to take action when you recognize that it's not a right match, because this is going to be a decision for you, and it's for your energy, it's for your time, it could be for your finances. So it's super important. Again, it's going to go back to core values and beliefs. And if you have that in alignment, your decisions are going to be made really, really quickly. All right. So okay, I've got Anthony Santangelo. I'm just going to put him in. Sorry, I was kind of minding the comments, but he looks like he has a way of tackling sales. He says, not calling for 2 to 3 days is like using the takeaway close in sales. Okay, you might have to elaborate a little bit more, Anthony, but Anthony is a great salesman and he teaches about sales. And so, he probably has some great tips. And if you have any more, Anthony, put them up there, but he probably has some great tips about that fine balance of how many days do you call after or not, right? So if you have more tips on that, just put it up there. So again, challenge. Okay, so the challenge for me is, I've had a lot of different ways that I found in this article about, or some different tips of useful advice and tips that maybe you can use. So of those tips that I had talked about, and I can put them up again really fast, just so that I can have you guys check it out. I want you to pick one of these tips. I want you to pick one of these tips where you might want to work on it to improve your business communication, to gain better trust with people. So pick one of these 9 things that I had pulled out of the article. So number 1, it takes time to get to know someone and to build trust. Know that it's not all about the scoring. Number 2. Number 3, don't force something and push too hard. Number 4, first impressions can be deceiving. So number 5 is you may have different needs for different times. All of this, don't self-promote too much. And number 7 is it just may not be the right time. Number 8 is be clear on your intentions. A lot of this has to do with really knowing about yourself and what you're able to tolerate and what you're able to use as far as reaching out to people. And I know I talked about, earlier technology, because I think that with technology, it shouldn't be much different face to face in how we reach out. We still have to be careful. We still have to do our due diligence. And then we have all these different tips where once you set up your core values and your beliefs, it's going to be easier for you to come off as genuine and make those connections. All right. Oh, okay. I'm reading a comment from Anthony. All right. So anyway, thank you guys so much for joining in today and being on the show with me. And I'm so thankful that you guys show up and watch and catch it on the replay if you do. So I will be here every Monday on Just Connect, 5:00 p.m. at Mountain Standard Time, and we'll sit and chat. All right. I will see you later. Thanks for joining me today. That's all I got today. All right. Bye.